Hello everyone, my name's Chantal from Crochantelle, and welcome to this tutorial on how to crochet a toad or a TomaTOAD. The materials that you'll need in order to make this is a 5mm crochet hook, a darning or sewing needle, a stitch marker, I personally use a bobby pin, some scissors, 12mm safety eyes, black acrylic yarn, polyfill stuffing, and red and green super bulky yarn if you're making the TomaTOAD, or just green yarn if you're making the toad. The stitches you'll need to know in order to make this is a single crochet, increase, decrease, bobble stitch, magic ring, and fastening off. The first thing we will be making is the leafy portion of the stem. To start this, you will use your green yarn and do 6 single crochets into a magic ring. As some of you know, I like to close off my magic rings before working single crochets into them, but that is ultimately your choice. I just find that this prevents the yarn from snapping when closing the magic ring. Now that you have completed your 6 single crochets, we are going to start on round 2. For round 2, you will chain 2, and then in the second chain from the hook, you will do a single crochet. As you can see, I have 2 chains, and in the second one I will be doing a single crochet, and then in the next stitch I will be slip stitching. So there's the next stitch, and I'm just going to go in with my crochet hook and slip stitch. You will do this for a total of 6 times around. Once you have completed the 6 leaves, you can fasten off your work and leave a long tail for sewing. This is what your finished leaf should look like. We will now start to work on making the stem. To start the stem, we will make a slip knot. Then you will chain 3, and starting in the second chain from the hook, you will do 2 slip stitches down the chain. So in that chain right there, you will do 1 slip stitch, and then in the next chain, you will do another slip stitch. Be sure that the tail at the beginning and the end of the work are long. You will need these to sew them on to the leafy portion of the stem. This is what your finished stem should look like. To complete the stem, you will have to use both your leafy base as well as the stem. Taking one of the tails from the stem, you will have to insert your hook between rows 1 and 2. Pull the yarn all the way through until the stem is flat with the leafy base. Taking the other tail, you will put the tail onto your darning needle, and then insert that as well between rows 1 and 2. Make sure that each tail is inserted on opposite sides. Then take both tails that are now on the bottom of the leafy base and tie them together. This is what your finished stem and leafy base should look like. We will now start making the toad. Use the base color yarn of the toad that you will be making. To start off, you will do 6 single crochets into a magic ring. Since I am making a TomaTOAD, I've chosen to use red yarn, but you can choose to use green yarn if you're making the regular toad. Once you have done 6 single crochets, you will then start on round 2. Round 2 is simply doing 6 increases around. At the end of the row, you should have a total of 12 stitches. This is what your work should look like after you have finished the 6 increases. For row 3, we will be doing a simple repetitive pattern of 1 single crochet and then an increase. Do this for a total of 6 times. Once you have finished, you should have a total of 18 stitches. This is what it should look like once you have completed row 3. Row 4 is a bit more complicated. This is where we will be starting the eyes. You will start off by doing 5 single crochets. Once you have completed the 5 single crochets, you will do a bobble stitch. Personally, I like to do 5 double crochets in my bobble stitch. That means you should have 6 loops on your hook at the end of your bobble stitch before closing it off. After completing your bobble stitch, you will do 6 single crochets. After your 6th single crochet, you will then do another bobble stitch for the other eyeball. To finish off row 4, you will do 5 more single crochets. You should have a total of 18 stitches around. I'm going to do row 5 off camera. It is simply doing single crochets all around for a total of 18 stitches. I am now back from doing row 5 and we're going to get started on row 6. For row 6, all you will do is repeat the pattern of 2 single crochets and then increase. You will do this for a total of 6 times. By the end of the row, you should have a total of 24 stitches. And this is what your work should look like. For rows 7 and 8, all you will have to do is single crochet around, for a total of 24 stitches in each row. So that is a total of 2 rows of 24 single crochets. I have now finished my 2 rows of single crochets and we'll get started on row 9. Row 9 is where we will be doing the legs. Start off by doing 4 single crochets. Then you will do a bobble stitch. Once again, I do 5 double crochets for my bobble stitches, but if you prefer, you can use a different number of double crochets. Once again, there are 6 loops on the hook, and then I yarn over and pull through. Now you will do 5 single crochets. After the 5th single crochet, you will do another bobble stitch. This will be one of the front legs for the toad. After completing the bobble stitch, you will do another 4 single crochets. After the 4th single crochet, you will do yet another bobble stitch. This will be the other front leg for the toad. Be sure that when you're doing bobble stitches, you only pull through 2 loops at a time. After completing this bobble stitch, you will do 5 single crochets. After the 5th single crochet, do your last bobble stitch. This will be one of the back legs. Do your final 2 single crochets and you have finished the row. You should have a total of 24 stitches around. This should be the shape of your toad, roughly square-shaped at the bottom. We will now be inserting the safety eyes. Take your 12mm safety eyes and approximately 2 double crochets away from the center, insert the eyes. Adjust the position to your liking. Then put on the safety eye backing. Once you have put on the safety eye backing and secured the safety eyes in place, we will start on row 10. For row 10, you will repeat the pattern of 3 single crochets and then a 3 single crochet decrease 4 times. I am starting off with 3 single crochets, and then I am going to do a 3 single crochet decrease. A 3 single crochet decrease is simply doing a decrease across 3 single crochets. As you can see, there are 4 loops on the hook, and then I pull through. I will demonstrate again, 3 single crochets, and then decreasing across 3 stitches for a total of 4 loops on my hook. The square shape should be further reinforced for the bottom of your toad. We will now start stuffing. Be sure to stuff your toad firmly. When I stuff projects, I always make sure to squish the exterior until it is shaped to my liking. Before we get into the next row, we are going to be doing a shift stitch. So this will simply be doing a single crochet in the next stitch, after we finished our last decrease of the last row. As you can see, I am unstuffing my work. You do not have to do this. I'm just doing this so it's easier for you all to see me doing the last stitches. So after doing the shift stitch, I will be starting on row 11. I am starting row 11 with a single crochet. This is the beginning of the row, not the shift stitch. I will now be doing a 3 single crochet decrease. I will once again do a single crochet and then a 3 single crochet decrease. You will repeat this pattern 4 times until you have 8 stitches in the round. You can choose to fasten off your work here, but I personally do not like closing off my work with 8 stitches. So I am going to do one last row, row 12, of 4 decreases around, for a total of 4 stitches. This is ultimately your choice on what you are most comfortable with. I just truly do not like the look of closing an 8-stitch gap. To finish off, we will slip stitch in the next stitch, pull through and cut a long tail. Then, taking the long tail, you can weave the yarn through the front loops only of the remaining stitches of the last row and pull the opening closed. Once you have done this, tie a knot and weave in your ends. This is what your TomaTOAD or toad should look like. We are now going to get started on attaching the stem. Before starting the sewing process, be sure to cut off the extra long tails. This will help make it easier to weave them in later on. Take the long tail of the leafy base and attach it to your needle. Position the stem on the head as you would like it to appear. I prefer the wider portion of the stem facing forward. Be sure to sew the stem on between rows 1 and 2 of the leafy base. For this pattern, it is nice to have the leafy bits of the stem sticking out and not laid flat. Sew them onto the head between rows 2 and 3. Weave in the ends. I am going to sew mine on off camera. I am now going to sew the mouth on across 2 stitches in the middle of the face. Once I sew it on, I like to tie a simple knot and then weave in my ends. Adjust and pull the mouth accordingly. Once you have weaved in all your ends, this is what your finished TomaTOAD should look like. Or your finished toad, if that's what you made instead. Thank you so much for using my pattern and watching the first episode in Free Pattern Fridays, a new series I will be posting on my YouTube channel. Thank you once again, and I can't wait to see what you will create.